Hi, so today I want to talk about a thing. I want to talk about how often have you thought about, or do you think about, how, in what way is it possible for a human being to make something like this with, with our soft, chubby fingers? How? How? Think about it. I mean, we came from nature. This thing didn't fall out of the sky. It's not magic. Aliens didn't give it to us. We made it. How often do people think about it? Not nearly as often as one perhaps should, if they want to have a better understanding of the world. If you would give this to an ape, and a smart ape, and make the ape imagine, give it a million years for the ape alone to imagine how to make this thing. She can't figure it out. No way, because there's no way. Where do you take the material from? How are you so precise? How do you put it all together? How do you know what it does? How do you know anything about this? How do you know the material science? How do you know metallurgy? How do you know making these tiny transistors? This has billions, if not trillions, of these tiny transistors on it. How could you possibly do it with these fingers? Do you think about it? That's the question. So of course we know if you start thinking about it, right? So at one point we were just apes, chest apes, and we started to use tools. We picked up a rock or something, and then we took another rock, and then we hit the rock with another rock to make it sharper. We got sticks, we made some rope, and then we tied stone on the stick, and now we have a spear. and make it 10,000 years later, and we can make this thing. Of course, it's fascinating collaboration of the entire humanity working together, like a beehive or an ant's nest. No human being could make this thing alone. No matter how long. Well, perhaps in some amount of time it is possible. But it's amazing what we have created in the world, and in some ways it is really beneficial that we as human beings have this quality of the hedonistic treadmill. So whatever happens with us, after some amount of time, that becomes our normal. So people right now on planet Earth, human beings, are living in absolute poverty, suffering, in pain. On another side of the planet, there is some, Kardashian or whatever that's enjoying luxury from complete dumb luck and just, being stupid. The contrast is just absurd in our world today. We take it for granted, everything we have. I've always had this way of thinking, but recently even more, when I take something into my hands, I think about the materials, like where it was made. It was in another country, in a different country, where the materials came from. Ultimately, of course, we all came from stardust. We literally are stardust. It is fascinating how we have gotten here with our technology, and I totally understand that to an average person, all of this might as well be magic, because it's too complicated to imagine step by step how any of this stuff could be done. We grow up in this world and we take it for granted. All of this specialization, all of these factories across the world, all of these different designs, billions and billions of people working together on different parts of this world, making different kind of breakthroughs. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Like, all I want to do, it's just a really simple thought, is like, think about it, how crazy it is that we are nature, we came from nature, and how much we have changed the world around us in every way imaginable. We have been, polluting the atmosphere as well. We're heating the entire planet with the cars that we produce. We have figured out how to split atoms, to have nuclear fusion, to have atoms, uranium or something, and then you split it apart and it releases heat and energy and drives turbines, and we take electricity from it. We are working on creating nuclear fusion at immense temperature and pressure. We push like helium nuclei together and they fuse, releasing even more energy than nuclear fission, and making these mega projects. It is absolutely fascinating. Like, at the same time, it's so It's a trip, complete trip living in the human world. At the same time, we are so much in the dark ages in the sense of, politics and morals and ethics, what we consider normal, what we consider responsibility, what we consider, agency, luck, our economic systems, capitalism, like clearly is unfair and pretty much responsible for all of the biggest issues on our planets, wealth inequality, destroying the very nature that we came from. And we still have these monkey qualities like greed and jealousy and envy and all of this stuff. But at the same time, we have the LHC accelerator that accelerates, electrons or photons or neutrons, particles at like 99.9999% of the speed of light. We as human beings did that. We detect the merging of black holes billions of light years away from Earth, using instruments that have the precision of like a millionth of an atomic nucleus, the precision of a billionth of an atomic nucleus, by having large lasers that are like, like a kilometer or a few hundred meters apart, laser one way, laser the other way, and you shine light beams. And by the way that these light beams might come at different time intervals, incredibly small time intervals, you can deduce that something happened in the very fabric of space-time, because everything else is cancelled out and isolated. That we are creating these incredible breakthroughs, that there is so much in humanity to love and so much that I despise in humanity, qualities that that many people have and qualities that I have sometimes as well, that we have this part of this reptilian brains that we evolved from. Of course we can become better, and there has to be more good in the world than bad, because otherwise we wouldn't be here. If truly there was more bad, then we would not be here today. At the same time, we are functioning as a really effective, good, ant colony, building things. We have cities and towns and different countries and nations, and ultimately, we came from small tribes, and so the unity became larger and larger and larger. Eventually, I do see a future, unless we kill ourselves or something goes horribly wrong, we finally embrace that we are all one people and we are all one planet. How long that exactly takes, I have no idea. But I have hope for a future like that. Artificial general intelligence will be a breakthrough that will tremendously help with that, or destroy everything on planet Earth. So it is tremendous, it is fascinating looking at this spectrum, this extreme, this contrast between human beings, how different one person can be from another, and yet from how deeply similar we all can be. We have this ocean of experiences that we all have in common and share. I kind of didn't believe it before, but now I have begun to understand and, sort of appreciate more and more that you are me, I am you. Like, oh, that sounds like hippie talk, but that is true. You are me, I am you. You are all the people you meet on the street. All the people you meet on the street are you. There are parts of you everywhere, and, you are everywhere. I know, it sounds insane, but looking at this way from consciousness, I just understood that other people also feel pain in exactly the same way that I feel pain. That people feel happiness and joy exactly the same way as I feel it. Not maybe exactly the same way, but you know what I mean. That there's the capacity for this feeling, to actually have that feeling, that people are not philosophical zombies that are just programmed machines, that genuinely, because I've heard enough people say that, I think I'm conscious, and you probably are too, or I think I'm conscious, I know I'm conscious, but I don't know if you are, and it's so funny, and then I'm like, oh, okay, then we're all conscious, I get it, because we are. There's an interesting question, if we ever get to a science of consciousness, now we get to this idea of panpsychism. My ways of thinking constantly evolve and change over time. I am very open-minded, but I am careful to not be so open-minded that my brain falls out of my head. So I'm really critically thinking, but at the same time open-minded to new things. There's this hard problem of consciousness, and essentially the idea of that, right, is that how do we reconcile these seemingly two different worlds? That on the one side we have this physical world and this physical brain, and neurochemistry, all of that. And on the other side, we have actually experience what it feels like to be here right now. What it feels like, for example, to see the color red, to experience the color red, and the description of color red do not match or fit in any way together. Those are two seemingly very separate things. And currently we have no idea yet how to connect them together. So there is this idea of panpsychism. So currently that I'm just playing around with this thought and thinking about it. That's how my mind works, I just move from one thing to another and spend some time and think about it and stuff like that. So panpsychism, one way of thinking about the world is that consciousness also is a fundamental part of the universe in a way. It's not woohoo or some magical stuff, nothing like that. It is, it's the most magical thing in the world. But in that kind of sense, that it is absolutely a real thing, and it's a fundamental part of the universe. And it's so funny to me how many scientists sort of don't want to sort of admit that, like, that there can be so many crazy things happening in the universe, in quantum physics and general relativity, but like consciousness being something more strange than we could imagine. Whoa, that's going too far. And that is infinitely hilarious to me, because consciousness is the most important thing that we could ever have. Everything else also is from consciousness. You can't think about anything without consciousness. There's always that fundamental part. It's the most important thing in the universe, arguably, I would say, at least. To me, it's not at all absurd to make the assumption that perhaps it is absolutely possible that consciousness is also a fundamental part of the universe. The same way as light is a wave, consciousness can be a wave, and in different places with different materials, special configurations, it is possible to also influence this consciousness and to get these light bulbs that we are. That would also help us with many questions. One of the questions is like how the compatibility, like how do we reconcile these two different things? Well, they are not. They are all part of the same thing. Also, when we think about, viruses, are they dead or alive? What considers alive? What is dead? When we have matter, usually we talk about it, dead matter. We say dead matter. When we have dead matter, just particles, we have dust and some, water and whatever chemicals as well. And we say it's dead matter. And then we think, how can we possibly put it together to create life and consciousness? Panpsychism would explain this perfectly, because it's always there. In some minuscule, bizarre, strange way, consciousness is within all matter. So that is one way of thinking that I'm just messing around with and thinking about, because it does make sense to me at the moment. And like, again, to anyone actually listening right now, I just want to, please appreciate for a moment that, like, we accept so many crazy things about the laws of physics and stuff like that. But when it comes to consciousness, people are like, oh, it couldn't possibly be anything special. And like I said, that is infinitely funny to me. So far we have made no progress in how to put the two together. The dead matter and the actual conscious experience. They seem to be two different worlds, dualism. But I don't think dualism is real. I don't think there's some physical world and then some magical world. Like, it's all the same world, So I would imagine consciousness being in here the same way as anything else. But also consciousness being much more special than we thought before. I am excited for the future where we get more smart people, more smart artificial intelligence systems figuring this stuff out to get answers to this. Because whatever the answer is, I'm sure it will be fascinatingly interesting, and I look forward to the future. I just wanted to make a video sort of talking about my feelings, about the world, and sort of to not take it for granted. We live in really special times, especially now, where really soon we might have intelligent systems that are smarter than any human being. I'm sorry, my voice is a bit sore. I'm a little bit sick. So these are just some of my thoughts. So I hope you liked the video in some kind of way. If you have any thoughts, please share them in the comments. And of course, thank you so much for watching, and take care.